The ever-increasing quota demand by the company puts an unnecessary strain on your enjoyable work environment. Let's see how we can turn you into a great asset for the company by covering some tips and tricks. Starting off, let's look at optimizing time. The quicker you can get into the facility, the quicker you can start extracting loot. As after 5 PM, the larger monsters outside begin to spawn, making it difficult to extract that loot safely back to your ship. The moons, Offense and Assurance both have entrances that are located at the front of the ship. So if you can time it carefully, you can jump off the front of the ship to get a great head start towards the entrance. But be careful not to jump too early, otherwise you might break your legs. You can jump on all maps to get a small boost, but make sure you wait until the ship is very close before you do so. The exception to jumping is if the weather condition is rainy. This is because you might jump straight into quicksand, which will end you very quickly. Every round, you will want to bring as much loot as possible back to the ship, but not all loot is created equally. Usually, the loot further inside a facility is worth more, and even items of the same type spawn in with different values. Be sure to always scan the loot that you have and make a mental note of how much something is worth. You can always drop and change out loot to be sure you're bringing back the biggest value items. Speaking of loot, a common tactic is to drop loot outside the entrance facility. If one person on the crew is left alive, they should check these areas to make sure that they're bringing back all of the hard-earned loot. This also includes fire escapes if possible. The other reason you do this is that the hoarding bug, whilst passive most of the time, will come along and steal your loot if it's dropped on the floor. So keeping it outside ensures their grubby little hands don't get at it. One of the best things about the game is its teamwork. However, staying all together means you cover ground very slowly. Each level has a main entrance and fire escape that you can enter or exit from. So splitting your starting positions means you may cover more ground and more loot. However, sometimes the facility's procedural generation places the fire escape close to the entrance inside. This reduces its effectiveness. All you have to do is pray to the randomization gods on this one. Moving on, let's talk about items. There are lots you can buy and use in the game. However, inventory space is limited, so splitting your loadout between team members is a sensible option, especially for items like shovels to kill monsters and lockpicks to open doors. Bringing these items to the entrance, even if you're not going to use them, saves you from having to go back to your ship to get them. As the quotas begin to increase, having enough scrap to pass quota becomes an issue. However, if you store some of your scrap on the ship instead of selling it on payday, you can use it on those later quotas. But do note, all your scrap will be lost if your whole team wipes when out on a mission. Moving on, we have another location technique. If a player is at the ship's control panel with crewmates outside, but no radio to communicate, you can use Morse code. Well, sort of. You can open and close secure doors from the command console. This motion creates a very loud sound that can be used to help players locate areas of interest. Or if you come up with your own system, you can communicate based on how many times a door is opened and closed. Next, we have another speed tip. You can drop items from height. This saves you from having to climb back up to get more loot to bring back down. And for those hardcore pros, bring along an extendable ladder so that you can extend the position you're dropping your items from. Speaking of moons, Rend is probably one of the best places to go and farm money at. This is because it's the third most dangerous region in the game. However, it contains all the tier 1 loot that is worth the most. So be sure to save up enough money to travel to Rend when you can. Also, a note about traveling to moons, you will need to pay to reach the more advanced ones. But once you arrive, you won't need to pay to shuttle down to the facility. So it's best to travel as soon as you leave the company headquarters, as this will allow you to have a full 3 days looting for the cost of only traveling once. Next, we're going to talk about monsters and survival. Certain monsters can't attack you if you're on top of something, specifically railings, pipes, tables, or anywhere where you have elevation over an enemy. This is because some monsters can open doors, so jumping onto something is usually a better option. This will also allow you to safely dispatch them with a shovel or sign. Most monsters in the game can be avoided by being careful. For example, you won't aggro the spider if you don't touch its webs. And you can jump over most Hygridir, which are the slimes that you encounter. I'm not sure about the pronunciation on that one, let me know in the comments below. The snare flea can be challenging to deal with on your own. If you're quick, 3 hits with a shovel will suffice. But if it gets onto your head, you lose that offensive capability. If you're fortunate enough to be close to the fire escape or exit, then leaving the facility will instantly kill the flea. Next, we have the Bracken, a shadowy monster that will stalk different team members trying to snap their necks. This is easy to deal with as long as you look at it but not in the eyes. It won't attack you straight away, but be sure to keep a note of its location and not head into where it's last been seen. Next, we have one of the most challenging monsters to deal with, the coil heads. This is because you need to keep looking at them whilst moving backwards to escape. This can lead to situations where they may block your path. You can survive this, but you need to be quick. You can turn away super fast with your mouse and back again, which will allow the coil head to move slightly towards you, giving you the ability to maneuver around it. This quick look technique is also important when leaving the facility, as if you turn your back to them, they will kill you faster than you can escape. In these situations, it's best to get them into the corner closest to the door. This is so you can look at them and the exit at the same time. Moving on, we have the blind dogs. These are one of the toughest enemies to deal with because they can one-shot you and even get inside your spaceship. As the name suggests, however, they can't see you. So move quietly around them, but don't get too close or they will attack you. If you think one has picked up your sound or scent, then you can dodge their lunge. Another note with this monster is it will also use your microphone output as sound detection. So be sure to kill your comms. And if your microphone picks up lots of background noise, be sure to turn on push to talk to help minimize any unnecessary noise. For the Bracken and the blind dog, you can actually kill these monsters. All you need is the most overpowered weapon in the game, the zap gun. This electricity-powered weapon will stun and hold a monster in place when you zap it. The gun discharges an energy beam as you hold down the trigger. However, this won't last forever, but you can prolong the stun by keeping the gun in the center of the screen by moving it right and left. Think of it as a fishing game mechanic where, to keep one on the line, you need to counter its movement. And as soon as you stun the monster, you will need your other teammates to shovel the living daylights out of them until deceased. Next, we have the forest giants. The forest giant moves faster than you and has a huge line of sight. If you hear the ominous footsteps, you should use trees and small spaces to your advantage. If you're unlucky to be caught by one, you still have a few seconds to survive if your teammates are quick enough. A well-placed stun grenade will dislodge its grasp on you, or if you have a teleporter, someone can pull you out before it's too late. The next monster you really need to watch out for is the little girl in the red dress. They pick one teammate at random to haunt. There is nothing you can do about this, but that teammate needs to leave the facility as quick as possible. Unfortunately though, she will also leave the facility and follow you to your ship. All you're doing is buying enough time for your other teammates to grab whatever scrap they can and hopefully leave the planet before it's too late. Moving on, we have the Jester, a strange monster that will play a tune and upon completion will begin to hunt you down faster than anything else in the game. These things have a huge aggro range and hiding in the dark is not going to save you. So when you see one, begin to leave immediately. Finally, we have circuit bees. These have a squishy but valuable hive that is a serious payday. To get it, you will need one person to distract the bees whilst the other one snatches the hive. Once picked up and distracted, you will both need to lose line of sight with the bees, otherwise they will continuously follow you trying to track down the hive. Let me know what other tips and tricks you have, and as a quick note, this video may be out of date depending on when you view it. That's all for now. Until next time, peace. A huge thank you to all the supporters on YouTube, Patreon, Discord, and direct from my merch store. I couldn't do any of this without you, so thank you.
Na na na.